New Zealand, this is a very important New Zealand trial announcement for Barry Young, the heroic whistleblower who has brought the truth for all New Zealanders to see about the government's COVID response and the excess deaths that has caused. Please stand up in your millions around this country and support Barry Young. This is what we posted. Vax deaths, irrelevant. Legal bombshell. And we were reposting Barry Young's own words. Barry writes, "The Crown no longer wishes to cross-examine Barry Young on the vaccine mortality evidence that he has provided because it is devastating to them. They will never look at the data. They have gone down a twisted, narrow path. The Crown, the government, are now stating that even," I'll do that again, "the Crown," that is the government, "are now stating that even if vaccines are proven to cause excess deaths, it is irrelevant, according to them." Barry says, "I am not making this up. These words have appeared on official Crown Court documents." He says, "I'll just leave it at that. Decide what you will. This is an election year. Please ask your local MP if vaccine excess deaths, that is, excess deaths above normal expected death rates in New Zealand caused by the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, please ask your local MP if vaccine excess deaths are irrelevant." Barry Young, that is a dramatic post. And Baz, I spoke to you last week about you potentially appearing in court, in the court in Wellington this week, for a further, yet another one in your long drawn out trial. And you were not even sure if that would go ahead. So Barry, let's begin with that post and then look at your court appearance and whether or not it will go ahead, in your opinion, on May the 14th, in 2 days from when we're recording this. So Barry, that post, tell us about it. Why did you put that out and what is it alluding to?
Well, that post is basically what happened was, this is meant to be a continuation of the voir dire. It's called like a pre-trial immunity hearing, which is meant to be a continuation of what happened on the 11th of December last year. So they couldn't determine whether or not I was immune on the 11th and 12th of December last year. So they then...
Immune meaning whether you qualified as a whistleblower.
Hearing? Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, the Protected Disclosures Act. That's what I mean by the immunity hearing. If this goes ahead, then I am immune from all prosecution. It's a win, but it's either way, we've won. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to look at it this way. If they uphold the immunity, it's a bit of a sidetrack here. If they uphold the immunity and I am a whistleblower, legitimate whistleblower, then all this is over. It's done. And we've won. That's awesome. If they decide that I'm not a whistleblower and I don't have immunity, in which case the justice system is completely destroyed. They've got rid of numerous acts of parliament in order to do that, to say I'm not a whistleblower, then the trial will go ahead. And we've won. Because if the trial goes ahead, it will be unbelievable what will come out of this. And we're just scratching the surface so far. There's so much I can tell you that they've done, the dirty tricks that they've played, the corruption, the lies, the deceit, the breaking the law. All of that will come out in open court in front of a jury who might be bought and paid for by Pfizer, but also, more importantly, the public, us, the people, will see what the Crown have done and what the police have been up to. And they will be absolutely shocked and disgusted and appalled by the level of corruption and their behaviour throughout this trial. It has been unbelievable. But
I will just stop you there. Even in the voir dire, Baz, even in the voir dire in Wellington, when hundreds of people came to support you, they kept the public out of the court. And they can say, it's as if it's a hearing in judges' chambers. But that doesn't wash with the public. The New Zealand public who are awake know that your case is so crucial on whether we should ever again have forced jabs or
Yeah.
even jabs at all run by a
Mandate.
government. And
Mm.
so there should be full judicial transparency, and that was not transparent. That just looked corrupt. And if they do that again, if you appear in Wellington again in a couple of days, I think the New Zealand public will get even more angry than we were last time. So that's one
Well,
thing
yeah,
to think about.
it is a closed court, and the legal reason for that is that if anything comes out of this, it may prejudice a jury. But that's quite a narrow, strict interpretation of it. And the people do need to see justice. Justice must be seen to be done, right?
Absolutely.
And likewise, injustice is being seen to be done.
Yes,
as
it is.
is clearly playing out. And so they had the Crown have had since December last year until May. That's 6 months, right? Almost 6 months to decide whether or not they wanted to cross-examine me on this further evidence that I have provided. So they've had the whole 6 months, and they've waited until 4 or 5 days before the pre-trial has gone ahead to say, oh no, we don't want to cross-examine him now. So they've had all that 6 months they've just wasted. And this is part of the games that they play. So they're now saying that it's coming up 900 days since I was arrested. Can you believe that? Almost 900 days.
That's incredible.
And this is just a pre-trial. It hasn't even begun to talk about an actual trial date, which may be many years down the track. So we're up to day 900 almost. And they are now saying that they need more time. They've had everything since day one. And they're now saying that, oh, we haven't had enough time yet. It's like, well, this is part of their system. That's what they do. That's their lawfare that they wage against us. The process is the punishment, right? And you're aware of that. The way they treat you, and you're meant to be innocent until proven guilty, right? It's the other way around in my case. They just assume guilt. And this is process by punishment. Punishment of the process is the punishment. And so so the voir dire, which is meant to go ahead on Thursday, is part two. What I did in response to their legal expert, Professor Robert Scragg from Auckland University, his evidence that he provided on the 12th, on the day of the voir dire, he came up with another report and another statement. So I had a couple of hours to respond to that, which I couldn't reasonably do that. In response to his fresh interpretation of the data, which he hasn't even looked at, by the way, I then provided the court, which is what they wanted. All throughout, they said they were bewildered and frustrated by the lack of evidence, the lack of data that they really wanted to see. So I thought, I will give you this as an epidemiologist would give you in standard scientific papers, using their methods, absolutely their scientific statistical methods, to show what I was seeing, to prove my reasonable grounds. And this is above and beyond what the Whistleblower Act wants anyway. This is elevated reasonable grounds. This is not just a reasonable grounds of an average person. This is reasonable grounds of a professor level.
Yes.
So that is my what I've given them now, my interpretation of the data, and it's all it's amazing stuff. It shows conclusively, and the professor could not deny it, that when you look at the actual statistics within the data and using the professor's own numbers of what the standard mortality should be in New Zealand, the actual statistics that he provided. So I'm not making things up. This is his evidence as well. This is his data. He said 2022, for the whole range of ages in New Zealand, this is what the standard mortality should be for those ages, for each of those age bands. Okay? So with my data, the Health New Zealand interpretation of the data, the observed deaths, when you compare one to the other, this is Professor Scragg's, this is what New Zealand data should be. These are the number of deaths. My observed actual deaths, and this is actual right? 100% real people. The observed deaths was astronomically higher than what was expected. Okay, so under his analysis, under his data, there should have been, I'll just get the number here, 22,560 people who died within that group of 2.2 million people over that time period, with all the ages factored in, calculated very carefully, because older people will die more than younger people. All that is taken care of, age standardized mortality, time series, cohort analysis. Bit of a mouthful, but it's all taken care of. You can do that for each age group. You can work out what the mortality is. You can work out the actual number of deaths. And this professor, any professor of epidemiology, will agree with that number. If you look at that group of 2.2 million people, they will come up with a number of expected deaths around 22,560. Okay, that's standard scientific analysis. That's a baseline, right? Based on the mortality, the standard mortality rates. Okay, you look at that same 2.2 million group of people observed, actual in the database, you see 37,315 deaths.
Wow.
That's the difference between the two. This is in peak COVID. This is 2022. That's his number, what he would expect during the elevated mortality of 2022. That's his numbers.
Got it.
That's a professor's number. He cannot. Okay, so if he's coming up with that number, I'm not making that up. That's his number. That's his interpretation. 22,000 people are expected to die. 22,560. Actual number of deaths, 37,315 within the data of 2.2 million people over the same time period. Give you an SMR.
Barry, that should be an open and shut case. I'm sorry, but that should be it.
Standard mortality rate, 1.65. He agreed with all of that. He's got no choice. It's just mathematics. It's just pure statistics and mathematics. Now, that's an SMR 1.65. And yet you plug the numbers into any standard program like RStudio or Python or a Unix script or anything like that. I've got all these libraries that the professors and academics and universities use. They all use these tools. Makes their life a lot easier. So you plug them into a computer and it's like an algorithm. It will spit out the chances of that happening. So when you've got numbers this big, 37,000 versus 22,000, that means it's the standard error. The likelihood of this being a fluke is essentially zero.
Yes.
Essentially zero. There's no way that this just happened by chance. 37,000 versus 22,000, because the numbers are so big.
And what you're meaning by that, Barry, for people who aren't quite following that, when you say there's no way, you're saying there has to have been something in New Zealand society that changed at a particular moment in time that we can track back and say what was different from what we normally do. And there is no other explanatory change except for Ardern's rollout of the COVID response via forced jabs.
It's you just look, you eliminate everything. What is left? It must be what everyone's not talking about, what the Crown refused to talk about, which is part of my post. Vaccines causing excess deaths is irrelevant.
How?
So once they eliminate that from the equation, then what else could it be? Scientists are baffled. We don't know what else it could be. That's where they are backed into now. That's their position. They are in complete denial. They refuse to look at the data because it's like a vampire with a cross. They're absolutely terrified of it. So therefore, they will never look at it. And in denial of that, what else are they going to come up with? What is the reason why 37,000 people died when 22,000 people are expected to die? That's a big difference.
Just let people take that in. It is so crucial. And they have, in effect, backed themselves into a completely untenable corner for themselves to treat the COVID excess deaths data as, oh, there's nothing in the room, when the data is a giant elephant in the whole room across New Zealand, and one could say across the world. Your data, when it is recognized, as it must be because it is the truth, will bring the whole vaccine program into question, even when they're rolling out this new virus right now, this Hunter virus nonsense, which is the same playbook as COVID.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
Let's just go back to what the court's done.
What's that, that's why they don't want to. That's why they don't want to question me on Thursday. That's why they don't want a bar of it.
Yeah, of course.
And that's why they've thrown the professor to the curb. He's persona non grata now. He's out the picture. Even if I called him as my expert witness, the Crown would object to that.
Yeah, explain that. Explain how you know he's out of the picture and why they would object to it.
He's done because he would be forced to agree with whatever standard statistical methodology I present to him.
I get that, but how can they say he has no credibility when they themselves have just called him?
They say he's done his job as an expert witness to try and discredit me.
But you could still call him as an expert.
If I called him as an expert, yes, the Crown would object to that. I'm telling you, they would.
This is like a clown show. This is not a Crown court; it's a clown court. If this keeps going, it really is.
If it ever does go to trial, he will be on my witness list, and you will see them squirm and wriggle like a worm to try and avoid him being put on the stand. I guarantee you that, and that is an expert professor of epidemiology. He will never, ever, ever go on the stand.
The whole purpose.
It doesn't matter what your opinion is, the vaccines, you might think they're the greatest thing. In which case, why wouldn't you want a professor telling you that? Why that trying to hide it? Why do they not want to cross-examine me? Why are they saying, even if it's true, excess deaths from the vaccines is irrelevant? Even if you're pro-vax, that statement should ring alarm bells.
I want to get into that in a moment, but just what you said about them objecting now to the professor being your witness, because they're not going to use him anymore, because what he did was, in effect, put them further into the sticky situation they're in from ever arresting you instead of honouring you as a whistleblower. Yeah. But the whole purpose of the development of a legal system, the whole basis of the whole system in the courts, is as a way to get to the truth. And what we're having now is courts who are part of, more and more it's showing up as part of a system to cover up the truth that the government doesn't want, which means the executive branch of our government and the judicial arm of our government, which is meant to keep the executive arm honest as much as they can, they're now colluding against the true people like yourself. I just before we get into what the court has said there, I just want to talk about the elevated level of information that you've now put to the court. I wanted people to understand that because we've addressed this in a number of interviews, Barry, but you are meant to be like, there's a phrase in the judicial precedents, the man on the Clapham omnibus, and it was a phrase that was used in a court case, and it just meant the everyday Joe who just gets up and is with his family and goes to work and comes home and doesn't want any bother. You're meant to be like that. You're not meant to be an epidemiological expert in presenting this. It's beyond any doubt that you qualify under New Zealand's whistleblower legislation. Even if you didn't follow every single step of it, you still sent letters to your bosses. You notified them of what it was before you put it out publicly. If you look under the whistleblower legislation, you did the steps that were required. There are some people online spreading misinformation about that. Please don't do that, because Barry is clearly, if Barry doesn't qualify under our New Zealand whistleblower legislation, I promise you, New Zealand, none of the rest of us ever will have protection under our New Zealand whistleblower legislation. He is the archetypal whistleblower. So beyond that, Baz, you said you had to do an elevated level. You had to put yourself as your own expert in a way, which should never be what the whistleblower legislation requires, should it?
No, it should never be that. The test is, like you say, the test of a reasonable man, which is the guy in the Clapham omnibus. I think Lord Justice Denning said that. But yeah, and I do see myself as I'm a regular guy. I just want to be a regular guy, not a professor of epidemiology. But if they are going to force the issue, then yeah, I will take it to them, and I'm not an idiot. I've got an MSc. I will use their standard methods. I will research. I will do whatever it takes, using their own methods and standards or whatever, to go through that and prove, hey, you know what? This data that you've all had access to since day one, and these things that I presented to them, these different papers for different vaccine sites, that is all based on the initial spreadsheet that they had from day one. So there's nothing being made up here. There's no new evidence, no new data coming in. This is all stuff that they've had from day one. And so has the professor. He's had access to it as well. But he opened it once and closed it down because it wasn't worth his while to look at it, he said. He didn't think there was any merit in looking at the data. His words, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. He opened this as a spreadsheet and closed it down. So this data, these 2.2 million rows, the analysis I did initially before I was arrested was, kind of crude, but it was from a reasonable man perspective, I considered to be. And I mean, it's good enough to get the point across. It does raise reasonable grounds. It does make you think. Any person who looked at that would think that the same thing. There's something wrong with this. I mean, you saw the same thing, right? When I showed it to you on the laptop, your eyes just, hang on, there's something wrong here. That's basically it. That's all the reasonable test should be. That an average person looks at it and thinks there's something strange about this data. That's the test, right? But because they've gone down this path trying to disprove me and discredit me, I've thought, right, I can do this as well. I can play your games. Let me do some statistical analysis. Let me look at RStudio. Let me look at the same tools that you use. Let me go through the same methodology that you use. Let's look at Kaplan-Meier curves. Let's look at Poisson tests. Let's look at probability, p-values, standard deviations, confidence intervals, all that stuff. Yes, I can do that. I don't need to be a professor, but I can research it. The internet is a wonderful thing. And it will give you all this stuff. And basically, at the end of the day, it's just numbers and maths. So you plug in the numbers, you tell the computer to do what it does, it comes up with the results. The results are, this thing is a killer.
There are a number of points there.
Using their own methods, by the way, using their own standard methods.
You are formidable, Barry. It's like God chose out of all the people in all the world, the most formidable truth teller, truly, because you're also resolute, you're dogged, you're wonderfully stubborn, which I love, because you will not be ground down by their lies or their bullying or their extending the court case. But I will say one of our objectives in those 8 weeks that we all worked together as a group around the world, actually, people that we brought in on your data to check that it was really up to scratch, that it was top notch.
I am allowed to do that under the Whistleblower Act. There is a section saying that you're allowed to show other people and that's to show whether or not you should make a protected disclosure or not, but you are the to verify.
So, Barry, when we brought people together, a group together from around the world, online and in person, we had some people come across from Australia who were experts as well, to look at this data. That was so that we could verify it, so that we could check that it was at a standard and maintain that it was telling the truth when we put it out to the government under the protected whistleblower legislation. And from there, obviously, an honest government would have said, this data must go out to the world. We have made a terrible mistake, or the previous government, Luxon, would have said, Ardern and Hipkins made a terrible mistake in putting out this vaccine that is not a vaccine, actually, it's a bioweapon. We must put this right. Instead, Luxon and Seymour and Winston Peters have looked away from your data, and I'm so disappointed in Peters. He's doing work now about we shouldn't have the mass migration from India, which is appealing, but I don't ever want New Zealanders to forget this is a man who in 3 years has refused to meet with Barry Young and will not look at the data either. These people, these politicians who will not look at Barry Young's data are defining themselves as on the side of the globalist cabal. That is my unequivocal statement. I don't know where you stand on that, and you may not want to get into that, Barry, but that it really concerns me.
I can just say that with Winston Peters especially, I'm very disappointed. And I had hopes for him, as you knew throughout, before all this happened.
Always.
I pinned all my hopes on Winston Peters. My impression now is that he talks the talk, but he does not walk the walk. He's a typical archetypal politician. He will say whatever people want to hear, but does he follow through on anything? No, not in my experience, not at all. And when he was at the grounds in Parliament during the protests, he was like, all for the people having the voice. And yes, we will listen to you. But that's all he says. Words come cheap. Has he listened to me? No. And he should. He really should, because this is important stuff. I mean, when you think about 17,000, 15,000 odd people extra who possibly should be here today. If you look at the war memorials, the grave sites, if you see 1,000 graves, that's huge. It's a football field. If you think 15 of those, that's how many people we could have lost.
And much more in the years since, and people are still taking the COVID shots here in New Zealand, and people are taking the flu shots, which we believe have mRNA in them. But Winston, if you would like an issue that will absolutely get you on the front pages of certainly the alternate media around the world, pick up the phone. You have my phone number. And call me, and I will put you directly in touch with Barry Young and set up a meeting where you can look at the data, put this out to the world. I believe this would get you a clean sweep into power as our next Prime Minister after the November election. If you did this, Winston, you would be not just a New Zealand hero, but a world hero. So please pick up that gauntlet and ring me, and I will put you in touch with Barry Young. And you can be taken through, as he did with me, the horrors within this data. And as well as that, Winston, you could shut down this ridiculous court case, this clown court case. It is just an insult to all New Zealanders. Barry Young is being put through this for his inordinate courage. Okay, that's my message, Barry, to Winston. Let's get back to the clown court case. So tell us about this note that you had from them saying, frankly, we don't care if there are excess deaths. That's really what it comes to. Just give us the background on the note that I read at the beginning.
Well, that's basically that. I summarised that in my post, and it's an official memoranda from the court that just says that we don't think that the data shows vaccine excess deaths, but they can't prove that. They're just speculating. It's just their opinion, and they're not experts. They don't know. They're just saying, we think this data doesn't show excess deaths. We think this data doesn't show. They're not looking, So they're just saying that.
And who is the they? Are you talking about a specific judge?
The Crown is saying that.
Crown is
That's what they
saying.
don't remember. They're saying we don't think it shows excess deaths. We can't prove it. We just think that. And even if it does cause excess deaths, even if the vaccines do cause excess deaths, that is irrelevant. They actually said that.
Are
That
we
is
able?
irrelevant if the vaccines have caused excess deaths.
It's shocking.
I can't believe it myself.
Are we able to read the whole memorandum, Baz?
No. I would say not. No. But that's just one clause of it. That's just a footnote.
When did that memorandum come into you?
That came on the 6th, just a couple of days. That's why they don't want to go ahead with this idea on this 14th. That was the memorandum that said we don't need to do this. We don't want to cross-examine him on the data. And the real reason is because they're terrified. They don't want to, because they'd be forced to look at it, and they don't want to look at it. So it's like, okay, we don't want to look at it. We don't want to ask you any questions on this. We'll just move ahead.
So let's
look.
look.
We need this, and they need more time. This is after 900 days. They need more time and more time and more time. So yeah, so we'll see. What we want is because it's a day of the court's time, and it's very valuable time, because they're very, very busy. So what we want to do is make as much use of that time as possible. So if we can get anything to occur on the 14th, that would be great. Anything at all. And at the moment now, it's up to the judge to decide, or the court to decide what they want to do with that time. And hopefully they will do something with it. Either we'll be called in, and I don't know, whatever judicial process we have to do, at least we'll make use of the time. What I don't want is for that to be delayed, postponed, whatever, say that, we don't need to use this time at all. We'll get rid of that 14th. So nobody needs to turn up. And that's going to waste everyone's time. And then the judge will then have to think about whether or not I qualify based on the evidence that was provided on the 11th and 12th of December last year, which should be enough. Even though he was bewildered and he was always asking to see more data, he will have to rely on what was given to him on the 11th and 12th of December. I can't imagine why he would do that, because he was asking to see more and more evidence. And if the Crown are saying we are not interested in that evidence, surely it's up to the judge to decide that. So yeah, it's a difficult one. It really is. Hopefully he's a good judge, and he will want to see more, and he will want to listen to me being cross-examined on it. If not, then he will have to decide in his chambers, and in due course we'll get a ruling whether or not I qualify. And I don't know when that will be, possibly months down the track, because as the Crown are saying they want to provide more submissions, more stuff that they go through their whole rigmarole. And I'm going to have to come back with more stuff as well. I'm going to have to reply to them. So it's a farce, really. I mean, the evidence that the Crown have got, or the evidence, the stack of papers is literally a suitcase full. They have to drag it into the court. It's like one of those Samsonite suitcases that you see at the airports. That's how big it is now. And it literally is a case. So yeah, it'll probably double in size by the time they're finished with this. And that's just before the trial happens. So then the judge will decide yes, no. And it should be cut and dry. It should be easy, because the legislation, the Protected Disclosures Act, is a very simple act. It's a very small act. It's only a couple of pages. You can look at it. It's easy. And so that really, it shouldn't take this long. It shouldn't be so complicated and arduous and convoluted. But that's part of the punishment. And if they decide I don't qualify as a whistleblower, I'm perfectly fine with that. This is great. Whatever happens, we've won. I have no problem with that. They say, oh, no, you're not a whistleblower. Okay, then. Well, that means the whole Protected Disclosures Act is null and void. It doesn't
Yes,
apply
it
to
does.
anyone
Yes.
because it makes it extraordinarily difficult to qualify as a whistleblower in the Crown's narrow viewpoint. So therefore, we move on to the trial, a jury trial, and I can't wait for that. It would be epic because there are witnesses who I could call. Steve Kirsch wants to be there, so this could be fantastic for us. It really could. So yeah, they will
Who
be
else?
fully exposed.
Who else would you like to call? Would you call Ms. Ardern? Would you call Chris Hipkins?
Yeah. There'd be a whole list of
Bloomfield?
all the vaccinologists, Patricia Harris, whatever her name is, Baker,
Yes.
Professor Baker.
Turner, that woman
There's a
Turner.
whole list of people. This could be like another COVID inquiry, and then you'll
Yes.
see the rats leave the ship. They will absolutely refuse to turn up, and this will be great. You see, because it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's like, okay, a guy wants to call this person as a witness, and they're refusing to turn up.
Mm.
Why is that? Just ask
And
yourself basic questions. It's really not that difficult. It's not like conspiracy theories, stuff like that. It's just be reasonable, be rational, ask basic, simple questions. Why doesn't the government want to look at the data? Why are they doing this ridiculous trial? Why are they spending millions of dollars on this when some Health NZ were held to ransom by a real hack, by a group that got all that My Health data, they stole all those
yes,
records
yes, we
and held
don't
the
hear a
government to
peep about
ransom
that.
for money. And what happened to that? Nothing. Tumbleweeds. Were the police involved? Probably not. Did they give a shit? Probably not. So why are they coming after me when I had access to nobody's details? No emails, no telephone numbers, no addresses, nothing like that was ever at risk. And yet they've spent countless millions and thousands of hours on this. Think about that, New Zealand. Think about that.
And our Ministry of Health is always crying poor that they don't have enough money for actual health
Oh, enough
matters.
money for me.
Yeah, they have enough money to spend on you. And it would be interesting to get an OIA actually to see how much this ridiculous trial has cost so far. As well as that, in election year, Christopher Luxon will have every interest in trying to shut this story down because we have an election in November. So it's really important that everybody watching this write to Winston Peters. He is really the only very vague hope. But if Winston sees that most of the population wants something, he generally tends to put his finger in the air and go, oh yeah, the public opinion's going this way, I will jump on board with that. So it's the people who can lead Winston. I mean, Luxon is a lost cause. Hipkins is a lost cause. They're so brainwashed by their overlords at the World Economic Forum. But Winston might listen if enough people write to him and demand that he meet with Barry Young now to go over the data. We'd love to film that. And also demand that Barry's trial be stopped. It is so ludicrous that you are not just declared a whistleblower straight away. It doesn't need more evidence. The judge really, Barry, only needs to go and look at the Hansard record of the parliamentary debate on what was behind bringing in that whistleblower legislation. You qualify under every category. It's just crazy that they're not dealing with this quickly. So did you do a very...
No. It is and it isn't, because the longer this goes on, the better it is for us. Trust me on that.
You're
Trust
so
me on that.
optimistic.
There's so much stuff coming out now. It's like the more they go on, the more
true.
corruption gets revealed. It's like,
and it shows how...
You've just completely ignored the Bill of Rights. You've completely ignored the Evidence Act, the Criminal Procedures Act. It's like, it's mind-boggling what they've done. And I've got all this documented, all of the little tricks that they played.
This will be one hell of a book one day, Barry.
It will.
Can I ask a couple of things? Do you need money? You constantly turn down people who offer and tell me, will you take this money to Barry? And yes, we paid, Free NZ paid for one round, but since then you've done all your own work and you will not take money. But could we raise some funds?
I don't, but yeah. If message to anyone who's watching, if you want to contribute, give it to Free NZ, give it to Liz Gunn. If you want to give any money at all, please donate to her. Because
Barry, thank you.
She's the heroine throughout this. Trust me, I'm fine. I do not want anything from New Zealand. There may be a book I'd like to sell one day. I don't know. There'll be a hell of a good book.
This is nearly
you could co-write it with me.
Thank you for saying that, Barry. This has been a long, arduous journey for all of us.
This has lasted longer than the government.
Yeah,
the whole national government. This came out before the election last time, so it's now taken this long, and we're not even at ground zero yet.
We're not even at the start of it. No. That's a lovely offer by you, Baz, and I appreciate that support. And there has been far too much nastiness and jealousy, all kinds of things that I've talked to you about. But what we need to do is get behind Barry Young. We need to get behind those who get behind Barry Young, because we can't keep putting out the stories if we don't have some support from you. So if you want to support our Substack, I would appreciate that. But thank you, Baz, for saying that. Now, I also need to cover off something else. Your car, you keep regularly serviced, don't you? You make sure, and you're good with cars, you make sure your car is safe to drive. You have zero interest whatsoever in ending your life. We need to cover these things off. Can you just cover that off? You're very security conscious. You are aware of your surroundings. You have no suicidal ideation at all. No, not at all. And you keep your car regularly serviced. What was that?
Yes, I do. Yeah. No, life is such a beautiful thing. No, we'd never, ever want to end it prematurely, or anyone else's.
That's beautiful, and that's a message for the government.
The most pro-vax person. That's why we're doing this, Liz, because we want to prevent excess deaths. Because we love life.
Absolutely.
It's too much, just to give away. So that from me, there's no way I would ever think about that. I'm appalled. I despair at the kids who end their lives early. It breaks my heart to know that the suicide rates are so high in New Zealand. It's not worth it. It really isn't.
That's a massive discussion. And for people who are new to your work and aren't aware of this, another little aspect, it's an aside, Barry, but under Jacinda Ardern's government, they stopped recording the data on suicides. It's now, as a separate category, it's now recorded in a more generic category called accidental death. And the reason that they probably did that is because of her kindness to New Zealand, and I'm being deeply sarcastic there, the rate of suicide went through the roof under her rollout of the forced jabs and the closed down businesses and the desperation of so many Kiwi families forced by Jacinda Ardern. So when I see her film and her book being advertised, I still get a wave of nausea. It is so sickening. She markets herself as kind when you have in the data what that woman did to New Zealand. And it's unforgivable. There are excess deaths in this country. We need to get behind Barry Young, support him all the way. So, Baz, where are we at with May the 14th? Is there or is there not an appearance by you in court? And when are you going to hear?
It's all in the air. Well, the Crown definitely do not want to go ahead on the 14th. I definitely do want to go ahead on the 14th. Right now, it's in the hands of the court. So it's for them to decide what happens. And as soon as I hear back from them, hopefully today, I will let you know.
What a way to...
That's all I can say. It's just, this is the games that they play, right? So they've only had 6 months to decide, and they leave it till the last minute. That's their MO.
And if people aren't realizing, the modus operandi is to make the person who is on trial spend as much money, have as many sleepless nights, be
Inconvenience. Yeah.
as worried, put as
Yeah.
much time and effort into wasted moments in court, and they simply don't honor the person who's going through the trial in any way. They have everything weighted towards them. And here we have Barry, who treats it as the ridiculous game it is, who is more than able to ward off all of their lies with the truth, and who is willing to last the distance no matter the games they play. Barry, I truly think you were chosen by God for this. I really do.
Look where we've got them now. Look where we've got them. We've pinned them into a corner.
Yes.
Down a very dark, narrow, twisted, evil path.
Yeah.
To come out and admit and document black and white on paper to say that excess vaccine deaths are irrelevant. Can you believe that? That's where we've got them. So I think we've got the high ground here. I really do. For them to admit that vaccine deaths are irrelevant, we're moral superior.
Now, Baz, I am planning to come down to Wellington anyway,
Cool.
even if you do not end up in court. I want to be there, and we'll go out to dinner and we'll celebrate your
Good to see you.
tenacity. Do you want hundreds of others to come? Because even my neighbour up the road said, I want to go and support Barry. What do you think is happening? And I said, I don't know, and Barry doesn't know. This is how the court is running this trial.
Yeah.
Do you want people to come, Baz?
Well, it's up to them, but the way
You'd
the
love
court
it.
is,
You'd love it.
yeah, I would. But
Yeah, you're so thoughtful. As many people as can come, please do come. And if we all just go out afterwards for a nice drink at the pub and cheer Barry on and say 3 cheers for this brave whistleblower who never gives up on our behalf and on behalf of our children, for there to be a much more honest New Zealand, and for there to be an end to these poison bioweapon shots that are causing excess death in New Zealand and far beyond our shores. So please, everybody, if you can come to Wellington, May the 14th. What time are you meant to be in court? Is it 10
it's
a.m.?
meant to be 10 o'clock, yes, standard gentleman hours to start.
In the
10 o'clock.
district court, of Wellington,
Yeah.
and it's just up the road from a pub. So we will go there. If they play their games to the max and cancel at the last minute, we'll still go ahead and celebrate
All
you,
right.
Barry Young.
Yeah, that
Thank
sounds like
you.
a plan. All right,
Lovely.
thank you.
Thanks, Baz.
See you there.